All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and as always, scouring the nation for the best and most interesting stories I can find. And luckily today, we have someone who the CWB has recently gotten into cahoots with, and I'm hearing good things. It's Kevin Seymour from WeldReady.ca, weld-ready.ca. So Kevin, how you doing?
Man, it's another day in paradise. I'm busy as ever, but busy in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where are you? Like, if you're where I am right now in the province in Canada, you wouldn't be saying that you're in paradise, but maybe it's really nice where you are.
No, it's cold and dark, man. No, I'm in London, Ontario. We do business nationwide, absolutely, but I am physically in London. I've been out here for 2 or 3 years now. I'm originally a Toronto boy, but I'll tell you, I'm not going back. I love it out here.
Well, people keep trying to convince me low key to move to the GTA, and I have like zero reasons to. And I'm not trying to offend the GTA friends of mine, but I can't see me living there. I really don't.
You're out in Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, I'm in Regina, Saskatchewan. Yeah.
Yeah, don't leave, man. Don't leave.
No, I know. It's everything's really comfortable out here. It sounds like it's a lot of hard work to live in the east. I mean,
it can be totally stressful. I mean, it's a great place to grow a business, but it is every time I go out west, I'm like, oh, these guys are way more relaxed. Like these guys are doing it right.
Yeah, we kind of take it as it comes, and winter slows you down whether you like it or not. So
yeah.
All right, so let's start at the beginning here, Kevin. You said you were born in Toronto. You're in London, Ontario now.
Yep.
Let's start filling in the gaps in your life here. Where did you go to high school? You grew up and were raised in Toronto, or what?
Absolutely.
What's the story here?
So I'm from North Toronto. I grew up in a small town in a big city known as Leaside. And I went to high school there, but my dad lived out in Bolton, Ontario, and he owned a truck body manufacturer known as Multivans. Okay. So I was actually back and forth between Toronto and Bolton. I every summer since probably a couple years before I was legal to work, I was working in that factory.
Yeah.
In manufactured parts. That was my thing. And so I get out of high school. I go off to do mechanical engineering at UOIT out in Oshawa, and I do mechanical engineering as a major, and I did a minor in business management at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I get out of there. I go to work for the old man as an engineer for the next decade of my life, give or take.
Oh wow, that's a long time to work with your old man.
Yeah. So it's. We grew from like a small business up to a medium business, and then he sold the thing off. Mm-hmm. And I worked for Morgan Corp, the company that bought them, for a couple years before going absolutely crazy and going off to do my own thing.
That sounds so similar. I worked for my dad's shop. It was called Superior Hard Chrome. He was just a manager. I shouldn't say just, but he didn't own it. But we were friends with the owner's family, and so my dad was the shop manager there. And that's how I cut my teeth, was working there. I started there like at 16 on weekends and whatever. Yep. And then it got bought by a mothership called Dyna Industrial, which is a huge multinational company. And I still stayed there for a couple of years, but then it's like things got weird.
The energy was different for sure. Yeah, we went from being like a small business at heart. If you've got a good project, go ahead and run with it. If you think you can cut costs, we're going to give you a shot. If you think you can save labor, go for it. To like fill out these forms, and in 3 months we'll see.
Yeah, it's a different falling under the umbrella. I got a love for startups. I got a love for the entrepreneurs that come up, and success is a very interesting thing because success is hard to manage. I remember being told that when I was young. Success is hard to manage. Everyone gets all hung up on failure. Try succeeding. That's real hard. Then you got a lot of things. Then you're balancing a lot of things, and you got a lot of juggling, and no one's expecting you to drop it. And then the big companies come in and they have their formats and their procedures and their pathways, which once you're out of it and you step back and you look at it, you're like, okay, I get it, but the change is tough. The change is tough.
It was totally not for me, and they bought my allegiance for an extra year. I quit
Hmm.
3 times actually. And 3 times they gave me a raise, and I was like, "Oh gosh,
Did
okay.
you try
Yeah,
that?
yeah."
Did you try the hat on the floor quitting? Like that's it. I've had it. I'm
It was
out of
it
here.
was it was so close to that, man. Like, it was so close to that. And then, the whole, "Well, we can't lose them, so give them more money, buy your
Yeah.
loyalty for a bit." But no, I really do feel like I was born to be an entrepreneur. Like, so I had this moment just the other day. When you wake up and it's like it's still dark out, it's 5 in the morning or whatever,
Hmm.
and you check your watch, and you're hoping, oh, I hope there's lots more time to sleep. I,
Hmm.
I had this moment where I looked at my phone, but I was hoping it was later so I could go to work.
Yeah. You're
And
like, am I ready to start yet? Like,
yeah, like, can I go to work? Like, I'm thinking about work. I should go to work. And that's when it dawned on me. I can never go back to the corporate lifestyle. It's not about the money. I get so much energy and enjoyment out of growing my business that it's just all I want to do. It's all I think
well, it's your background's going to help you with that. Like I had to step in and out a few times, and now I work for like the corp. So
about.
like
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
I'm about as corpy as it gets now. But you know, I as an entrepreneur, I had a couple businesses young and they failed, and I had one that did well, and then I still have a registered business to this day, just
Mhm.
under my name. There's always that side that I loved, and I loved that experience, but I made way too many mistakes. I
Yep.
didn't have the education. I didn't have the support net. I didn't know the people. So much of it was trial and error. And trial and error in business has a dollar amount attached to it, right? So,
100%. So I'll tell you a funny story on that line. So I also was doing an MBA at University of Toronto while I was working full time.
mhm,
And so I start this business, and I'm feeling like, oh, like you said, oh, I have a leg up. I went to pay the first time I had to pay a vendor. I
mhm.
walk in there with my checkbook, and it dawned on me, they do not teach you how to write a check in business school. And I had to, I just got to use the washroom for a second. I had to Google. I had to Google, like, how do I fill this check out? So what I'm saying is,
There's always new
they can only
stuff.
teach you so
Yeah,
much at school.
yeah.
Like, you got to go and make those mistakes and get those embarrassing moments to really, you got to really get your feet wet.
You didn't throw your hat on the floor and say, "You don't have EFTs? I can't transfer you directly from my bank. What kind of a
I
Neanderthal
I
business
didn't
is
know
this?" No.
I didn't know the difference between a wire transfer and ACH and EFT. They don't teach you any of that stuff in business school. Now I know all about it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I gotta jump back into something because it's stuck in my head, and
Yeah, go for it.
this is probably a really stupid question. But you said you came from a town called Leaside.
It's a neighborhood, but it
Okay,
feels like
so
a
a
small
neighborhood
town. Yeah.
Leaside. I feel like as a young teenager in Leaside, there was probably some local little gang sign or some chant or something that you guys had in Leaside. Were you guys all like yo yo? We're from the LS and
Oh
had
my
little
gosh.
things. Tell me there, because
Definitely.
I know I would definitely have been all over that if I came from a cool place named Leaside. Like, it sounds like a
Leaside
gang.
thinks Leaside thinks it's a lot cooler than it is. That's how I would put it. Yeah. It's like a upper middle class neighborhood where a lot of the people.
So it's like where Eminem would come from.
No. No, a fair bit safer, I'd say.
I don't know.
But
Eminem came from pretty upper middle class.
did he?
Yeah, he's a rich kid.
No.
I
He's
think
from 8
so.
Mile, isn't he? 8 Mile
Well,
Road in Detroit.
but
Last
8 Mile's
time I was
pretty
there,
long.
fair enough. Last time I was in Detroit driving past 8 Mile Road, I saw a burning, like a smoldering car at the side of the road, and no one seemed to pay attention to it.
Well, I think Detroit now and Detroit in the '80s is probably two very different things.
That's true.
Uh, but
Or Ottawa, yeah. Yeah.
for all the Eminem listeners, let us know. He's probably right. I'm making up, but but I felt like Eminem came from like a decent family. Like I, I thought he was a middle class blue collar family. No,
I'm keeping notes
you're
here as
you're
I'm
like
ongoing
googling
this.
this.
I know, I literally am. I've got the second monitor up, and I've got was Eminem from the middle class up here. Got it.
All right, Kevin. So we're way off track from welding, but mechanical engineer.
Yep.
You went into this. thinking I'm going to work at my dad's shop as a mechanical engineer because it's needed, or were you like, gee whiz, I love mechanical engineering. This is
Mm,
what I want to do.
no, so it was totally the former, not the latter. Like, where do I fit in this organization? What skills do I have? What value do I add? And the reality is, you're picking mechanical engineering when you're a 17-year-old boy, like not a man
What do
yet.
you know? Yeah, what do you
Yeah,
know?
and all I knew was, hey, I'm good at math, and my dad was an engineer, so I'm gonna go
Mm.
do engineering. And that's
And
really, I don't think any more thought came
did you
into
like
it than
it?
that. Not at all. Not at all. So I'll tell you, I really liked the business. I did a minor in business at the same time,
Hmm.
and I really enjoy business.
Yeah,
So I mean, I'm born and raised in a blue collar industry. It's what I know, and that's where my skills and my experience are. But ultimately, I'm a lot more passionate about being an entrepreneur than I
yeah.
ever was about being an engineer.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I get that. I have a love-hate relationship with engineers that goes deep, deep
Oh
back.
man,
Like,
me
I
too.
mean, not just from welding. Like, I mean, welding's part of it, but I went to university for philosophy. And what many people don't know is that for some reason, if in a not all universities, but the universities that have large and established philosophy departments, like the one I went to, the engineers are like the enemies. We
Mhm.
like have like rumbles. It's like a rumble town. Like they show up, like we show up with chains, and they show up with like I don't know, compasses, and we have like
Oh,
throwdowns in the metrology
protractors.
lab. Like, yeah, like, but no, it was like we always had these engineers come into the philosophy classes to take like philosophy of math, philosophy of like, you know,
Oh,
of like things that relate to engineering, but on a philosophical level. And they would all show up being like, "Oh, we're so smart because we're engineers," and then they'd all drop out because they couldn't wrap their heads around the crazy ideas. Like I remember the first class was like numbers don't really exist, right? Like numbers are just a thing that we invent in order to communicate. And watching these engineers' heads explode, and they're like, well. It's like, well, no, you could like numbers are just ticks on, and the numbers only as good as its instrumentation. As the next level of instrumentation increases in precision, then so does you're one step closer to the actual ethos of what a number is, and
I feel
wonderful
like
ideas.
numbers do exist outside of human theory, though. Like, whenever I read science fiction novels, it's like universal that the aliens use math. Like, they speak their own language and have their own method of communication, but prime numbers are prime numbers. They inherently exist, and it doesn't really matter if you were raised speaking Arabic or English. Like, numbers stay the same. All these different cultures came up with the exact same concept.
That's right. But did the snail?
No.
It's
The
still
snail did
alive.
not,
It
sir.
it exists just fine without a prime number anywhere in its vocabulary.
Fair enough. That's thought provoking for sure. So normally when someone from the welding industry tells me they've got beef with engineers, I know exactly what they've got beef about.
Yeah, no,
Like, a
and
guy,
that I developed that over years.
yeah, yeah, totally. Like, I remember, I'm probably 2 years into my career, and I get called down to the shop floor over one of my designs. And I go, this isn't good. And I got some guy, and he's going, how am I supposed to weld in there? And I'm taking a look at it, and I'm 5 minutes in, and I just go, you can't. Like,
Yeah, that's not
you're
a
not
thing.
getting your torch in there. I don't know where you're supposed to latch your measuring tape onto. Like, in CAD, in computer aided design, like, things
Hmm.
just float. And
Yep.
if you tell them to be flush, they are flush to a 000 tolerance. And then you get out in the real world and things don't float. You can't always get a torch in there, and it's just different.
It is one of the best shops I ever worked for. Used to make the engineers go down and work with the fabricators once every couple of weeks. Spend a day on the floor and look at their creations. Look at your creation come
Yep.
together, and you'll
Yep.
see where the pinch points are, where the obstacles are. And one of the things I asked draftsmen to do, or my engineers at shops, whenever they created something that was bigger or freeform, is to just mark the datum point on the drawing. Actually, mark. So if we're in space, fine, we're in space, but give me a datum because I can drop a datum on a
Yep.
table and build off of that. You know,
Yep.
if you don't give, if it doesn't matter if we're in space, as long as I got a singular point that I can just create and I'm good. And they were
Yep.
like, well, where are you going to put that? That's not your problem. I'll figure that out. But if you don't give me that, then I'm just trying to measure off of nothing, right? So,
Totally. I mean, like, there's general dimensions and tolerances, and the reality is a lot of people know the bare minimum on that, and you'd be better off to just draw an arrow that says put measuring tape here. Like it would honestly do better than all the symbols that I ever learned in my life.
Oh, well, there is some truth to that, and like I mean, things were built for a long time, and at one point in human history, anybody that built was an engineer. Like really, an engineer was just anyone that built anything. And then at some point, we separated the academic from the physical and said, okay, you're only going to learn this half of the building process, and you're only going to learn this half of the building process, and we're going to teach you different languages, and then you guys got to get together in the middle and have arm wrestles. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And there's always that struggle between like you can give someone a WPS, what was it, a welding parameter specifications or whatever, and it says how to do their settings, and they're looking at you while you give it, and I'm looking in this guy's eyes, and I know darn well it's going in hot and it's going in fast, no matter what I put on that piece of paper. Like,
and then when it comes back 6 months later,
yeah,
cracked, you're like, well.
yeah, no, totally.
All right, so you're working 10 years for
Yeah, give or
building
take.
truck bodies,
Yep.
designing truck bodies, and I assume these are somehow different from the standard truck bodies that are on the consumer vehicles. Like, what was the shtick
So
there?
they're straight trucks, 16 feet to 30 feet long, either dry bodies or insulated. So think Penske's, Discount Car and Truck Rental,
Okay.
Ryder, Brandon Toy paper delivery trucks,
Hmm.
Frito-Lay chip delivery trucks. Like
And this is
it's
chassis up, or this is
so we do not do chassis. Ford, GM, Hino, Isuzu, those guys build a chassis. We
mhm.
put a box on the back, and I promise you, we can make it complicated. Like there is so much more to it than a box.
Yeah, there's so much you could do, right?
100%. There's so many more specs than you could ever imagine. People put different lift gates on the back. People need different vehicle weight ratings,
Hmm.
walk ramps, side doors, roll up doors, barn doors, refrigeration. Like it's just, at the end of the day,
Endless.
it
Yeah,
is just a box, but it
so
needs
much.
engineers still.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys ever make something that was just ultimately cool that like was on TV or a part of a movie
Yeah.
or just something that was like, okay, we did that. We're the only ones that could do that.
100%. There's a couple bodies still out there that I still see that when they go by, that's my truck.
Hmm.
I met with the customer. I learned what they needed. I designed it. I oversaw production. And there's definitely a few of those that I've just my fingerprints all over it. The only one that I think most people have seen is the Tim Hortons delivery trucks for their small urban locations. Let's say you got a Timmy's and it's downtown Toronto, and there's just no way you're getting a 53-foot body in there.
Hmm.
They've got these little ones, and now they just look like boxes on the outside, but what's special about them is that they have three separate temperature zones because Tim Hortons buys dry goods, meaning
Hmm.
things that don't need temperature controls, don't need any of that. Then they have frozen goods that need to be frozen, and then they have
The
fresh
milk
goods
zone.
like
Yeah,
lettuce. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, milk, exactly. So within there, they have three separate climate zones with three things of insulation. There's one condenser up at the front, and three remote evaporators like that. That has my fingerprints all over it,
That sounds
and
fun.
it was and it wasn't. It when it was still a family owned business and we were growing like crazy, I had a lot of energy for that, a lot of
Hmm.
excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. And then when it became corporate, I was just there for the money.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not a good feeling.
Nope.
Like that's when you start being like really conscious of the clock.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know
Like you wanna go into work and wonder where the day went versus going
exactly.
into work and wondering what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, as soon as you start being like, "Oh, when's coffee break?" You're
Mhm.
not in a fun job. Then you're like,
How long can I
"Ah,
get away for lunch?
yeah,
You know,
exactly."
it's no good. But I have absolutely no regrets of sticking it out because
Mhm.
ultimately that was the seed money that started WeldReady.
So then let's start inching towards that path. You left, yeah, working with the company. You weren't good
Mhm.
with the owners. At this point, why did you jump off to? What did you do? Like, it sounds at this point like you probably did. You
I
have
was
your
doing an
MBA
MBA,
done?
right?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
I never finished it. Never finished my MBA, and I'm not going to. I
Hmm.
I don't think. So I was
Yeah.
doing my MBA while working full time, and then the pandemic hits,
Hmm.
and because I had quit the job 3 times,
Hmm.
when layoffs come around, they did me first,
Yeah.
and it was the funny moment where I've got my boss I've known since I was a little boy, and I've got HR, and they lay me off, and I say thank you. And
Yeah,
then everyone
yeah.
starts laughing, and my boss goes, "I told you he'd be easy. That's why we did him first." And so
You already have your jacket on. Okay, thanks. Great.
I was out. I was like, "Thank goodness." Like, you mean, oh wow, like you laid meat off. I get a little bit of money and I get to go not work for a bit. It's fantastic. So I
Well,
continue on with my MBA, but it's online now because the pandemic's happening,
mhm,
and I really did not like doing online only school. And I was past the point where having time off work was fun,
yeah,
and naturally my entrepreneur brain's going crazy. Like, what can I do? And so I'm going to kind of walk you through my thought process here. I always wanted to start my own business, and my mindset was the previous generation, it just has such a strong foothold in so many businesses, and I just don't think I can compete with them. So where is that previous generation weak? Where what are they scared of? And I
yeah.
kind of landed on two things: short-term rentals like Airbnbs. I actually got into that for a bit, and e-commerce. E-commerce. So they're really like the big three, Air Liquide, Lindy, those guys. They do a really good job at having a brick and mortar and selling gas and wire, but they just do a not so good job at e-commerce, selling online. So I start kind of exploring what can I sell online, and I wanted to do something where my previous experience, my knowledge could be leveraged, and my industry contacts could be leveraged. And I thought, well, it's got to be something blue collar. That's all I know. I'm born and raised in that. My whole career has been in manufacturing. What can I do? I kind of thought through some stuff, and I landed on welding. And so I start WeldReady. I build a website, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I know just enough to be dangerous, and I thought it was going to be a side hustle, and then it turned out there was so much demand for buying welding supplies online. I couldn't believe it. And within about 3 or 4 months of having it as a side hustle while I finished up my MBA, I said, "Oh no, this is so much bigger than a side hustle." And I left the MBA and I just went for it.
Now back up,
Yeah.
because like you talk about the Acklins and the Air Liquides and the
Yep.
Lindies, and
Yep.
they're all the motherships, the giant corps, and
Yep.
yeah, they either they don't care about e-commerce, like some just haven't even touched it, like they're just not there,
Yep.
or some have gone into it and tried to be the Amazon, but they're not running really the Amazon algorithm where
Yep.
they're expensive. So like I mean that's not really Amazon. Amazon may
It's cheap and
love
fast.
love them or hate them, they find you
Yep.
the cheapest thing. Even if you find no name thing on Alibaba, Amazon's going to have it the next day for a
Yep.
buck more, but good enough, right?
Hmm.
So so no one's really doing that, but they offer something that I think also, because I believe that the old style of business is dead. I really believe that, and I'm one of the people that's trying to bring forward a whole new vision of business in
Cool.
Canada and the world. And it's the way I've been managed, the way I've been taught to manage, the way I manage, and the way that I've been very successful for the companies and myself. And part of that is to you don't have to own it all.
Yep.
You don't have to own it all, which is very much an old school way of like we must conquer everything, and these corporations just
Nope.
start buy, and then you have a mess. You have a mess. Stocks aren't online, things aren't jiving, different places, different things, and just it just becomes a mess. So you're looking at all this and
Yep.
you're trying to think of the niche. Like, okay, what's your
Yep.
niche? But
S-
welding is a very tight niche, right?
Angie.
Like I mean, safety would have been much more cross trades. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's a few, and I don't see any singular mass e-commerce for safety out there. And if you start one tomorrow, I get half. But like
I'm in.
there,
Let's do it.
there, there isn't a lot of space. So when you're looking at this, with your business history, and you're like,
Yep.
I want to get into something. You type in like I'm sure you did your Googles and
Mhm.
online welding e-commerce. There's I'd say
There's a handful.
a handful, yeah, four or
Yep.
five decently established ones in Canada that are
Mhm.
outside the boxes, but still tied into like they're tied in. Everyone's tied in somewhere because you need Miller, so you're going through ITW. Like there's going to be some chain of command there. Um, but then there's a lot of like the new companies that are coming up right now as well that are looking to feed the smaller distributors.
Mhm.
Like you got like the CKs, and you got the
Yep.
Blue Demons, and you got the Everlasts, and
Edge welding supply comes to mind.
right,
The
right.
fancy Pyrex cups. I mean, Air Liquide's going to sell you some pink alumina cups and old school collets, but what if I want to get a number 21 with a big old gas lens?
That's right. So how much of that did you know when you're like, I'm picking welding? Or did you pick welding and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God,
I
like there's
thought I
so
knew so
much.
much more than I did. I really like I knew enough to think I knew what I was doing, and then
Mhm.
within a couple months I realized I know nothing and I have so much to learn.
And how did you
But
pick a platform? Like, I've talked to other big companies on this podcast, and some of
yep,
them started on eBay, some of them started with Amazon stores, some
yep,
of them started on Shopify.
Shopify's
The-
the way to do it, man.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I don't. It's So I did a brief amount of research on where to start, and ultimately I landed on Shopify because it's a Canadian success story,
hmm
and I
they're
wanted
hurting right now though, so shout out to Shopify.
the stock is hurting, but the business is growing,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
So I actually I am a shareholder, and their whole thing was during the pandemic and the lockdowns, e-commerce just went absolutely crazy,
hmm
and they ramped up accordingly, and they ramped up for this vision where like everything's going to go to e-commerce
hmm
forever, and that's all there's going to be. And then as soon as retail started opening up, e-commerce had a bit of a dip, and it's still up 10% every year since the pandemic. It's just it doubled and then cut itself in half. So really, it's
Which
back to where it was.
all IPOs
Yeah,
starts do. If
yeah,
anyone thinks they're going to ride that first bump forever, shake yourself. There's going to
yeah.
be the dip. So
It's a wild ride for sure.
yeah. Okay, so we're at a half an hour. Let's take a break for advertiser. It may or may not be a competitor to you, so
Uh
it
oh.
is what it is. But I mean, you are more than welcome to support the CWB Association podcast. So to
Yeah,
all the listeners
we'll
out
talk
there,
about that.
yeah, stay tuned for the second half of the show. I'm here with Kevin Seymour from weld-ready.ca or just weldready.ca, and we'll be back here right after these words from our supporters.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at cwbassociation.org.
And we are back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron. I'm here with Kevin Seymour. When we left off before the break, we were talking about, okay, you got this vision, you established the market you want to kind of get into, you figure out the platform. Now, what the heck are you selling? What are the first things that you put on this
Yep.
e-commerce? What did you think off the top was going to be the thing that made you stand out?
So I mean, I have to kind of plug the brands that backed me right from day one.
Yep,
So
that's
we've
fine.
got Optrail welding helmets, we got CK Worldwide TIG torches, TIG consumables, ESAB welders, especially their multi-process ones. I mean, those guys really. I told them
The
what I wanted to
yeah.
do, they bought in right away. And then a lot of the other vendors, you kind of have to convince that e-commerce is a good idea, but they're on board now. We're selling a lot of 3M speed glass welding helmets and ad flows, the like the Papper setups,
Yeah.
and I'm adding about 10 or 20 products a week,
Yeah.
and I really want to ramp that up because it's just there are so many little niche products that people need that they just aren't getting it.
Yeah, are you gonna do the Shane strategy? Add 10,000, keep 1%. You know, they're
Oh
the
man,
largest growing e-commerce in the world right now. They're outpacing Amazon, but they have a crazy, crazy format that I would have never in a million years thought would have been successful. But
what's the name of this company? I don't think I've heard of them.
Shane, Shein. They're based out of China, but most online retailers will add 1,000, some will be even 2,000 products a week. And then they try to, like Amazon tries to have an 80% retention level where if you find a product on their website and you like it, odds are you can go back there in a year and it'll
Yep.
probably still be there, right? Shane threw that out the window, and it's like we're all about riding the bubble. So it's 10,000 products a week, and they keep like 10%, whatever sells more than a specific
That's
number,
crazy.
and then they just rock. So basically, what their shtick is that you'll always find something new. So if I buy a purse from Shane and it's beautiful, next week if I try to buy that purse, it's gone. Unless they
Yep.
sold 6 million of them, it might be there, but otherwise you're buying a different purse from that supplier.
Yeah.
And so like
Exactly.
it's a very, very interesting model. I just read a large article on them in a business magazine, and I was like, man, that is a crazy format, but I don't know how sustainable that is.
I
And
don't
it's
I
all
don't think I could 10,000's a lot. So the way it happens now is we have an existing customer base at this point.
yeah. Okay.
It's expanding rapidly, but we get asked, hey, thanks so much for product X. Do you also have this? And then I have to go and like if it's with one of the vendors we currently have, which it usually is, then
Mhm.
that's my cue to go and add it to the site. Is that
Well,
I
that's
have an
that.
existing customer that needs it.
Yeah, that's when the sales hunt starts, right? As a
Yep.
supplier, I had a supply store for a while, and it's like if you don't, you hate to say no. It's like, oh
Yep.
no, I don't. Sometimes you don't even know what the hell they're talking about. You take some notes, you go find it, you figure it out, and
Mhm.
you come back. And odds are, if one customer needs it, others will too.
Oh, almost always. I mean, especially when you get into like MIG consumables, there's a million different contact tips out there
Hmm.
at a million different diameters. MIG liners for your guns, like I cannot stock every MIG liner in existence. But if I know that you, Mr. Customer, need this one on occasion, I'll start carrying it.
That's good. Now, let's go back to some of the basic parameters of your business.
Yep.
Where did the name WeldReady come from? What is it? Why the dash? Why the name?
Where did WeldReady come from? Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Did you come up with it or somebody else?
Oh, I came up with it. So we wanted to appeal to schools. We do a lot of work with
Okay.
schools. We're doing more work with the CWB now, and WeldReady sounded like a really good name for the schools. I don't remember who came up with it or why or when, but
Hmm.
it is from within the company, and so that's where that came from.
The dash.
And then the dash was because the name WeldReady was taken, but it was expiring in like a month or something like that, and
And
no
you
one had
just
used
didn't
it
want
in
to
10
wait.
years. Yeah, that's literally all it was. So we own both now, but like that's literally all it was.
Yeah. Okay. And then the bull.
Okay,
What the heck's up with? Yeah. What's the bull?
the bull is like my favorite. This is the best bang for buck I've gotten in my life, and I've gotten a lot of deals in my life, man. So yeah, so I had no idea how to do graphic design or logos or emblems or anything, and I went on Upwork
Yeah.
and I found this guy in Pakistan that says he does logos, and I told him kind of what I was thinking. I was like, I want a bull. I want him to be holding one of these, showed him an oxyacetylene torch and like some old school goggles.
Hmm.
And then he was like, sure, my friend, no problem, no problem. And he does it. And then he sends it back. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect. And he goes,
It's
anything you want to
deadly.
change? And I go, can you make the bicep a little bigger? He just puts these beefy arms on this
Yeah.
bull, and I was like, that's it, man. Like that's perfect. And this was a
Now,
shot
are
in the
you are
dark.
you
Like,
into fitness or something, or just
oh, definitely,
you just wanted a
definitely.
bad bull?
Yeah, so I do I do Ironman triathlon. Like
Okay.
I'm a adventure outdoor fitness junkie type guy. I did my first half Ironman this summer, which is it's a 2 kilometer swim and then a 90 kilometer bike ride and then a half marathon, which is about 21 kilometers running.
Sure, no problem. I could do
No
that in
problem.
6 years, no problem.
Max, it totally broke me, but I did it. But I did it. I was a broken
That's
man for a
awesome.
month.
Yeah, because I was wondering about the bull and the muscles, and so that explains it. And the these graphic designers that work overseas, man, they've done some stuff for me. They do good work.
I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. I was braced for the worst. I thought I'd thrown $20 away, and then he came back with it, and I was like, "Oh man, this is
Done.
better than I was envisioning." Totally.
Now we go back to these first products, okay?
Yeah.
So you're connecting with these suppliers. You got the ESABs, likely the Rebels. You got
I saw a
these
lot of those. Yeah.
these ready to rock machines, which are fantastic. I've
Mhm.
used one for years, and then you got the
We got
CKs,
plasma
which
cutters.
yeah.
We
So you
got
got these things,
Yep.
but were they all up on the website day one? Did you
No.
hit the website with like 100 products,
Yep.
1,000 products?
Probably about 100. Probably
Yeah.
about 100. So the way I started with welding helmets and TIG torches and TIG consumables right off the bat.
Okay.
That's
And
kind of what
Optrel helmets,
definitely
which is a good
Optrel.
angle because there's not a lot of Optrel push out there. There's not a lot.
Yep. Yep. And they do make the nicest lens in the industry. They really do. It's made in Switzerland, high optical clarity. They hold a few world records. They got a bunch of patents. Like So
Yeah, no,
I
clarity, it's hard to beat. Yeah.
it's really hard to beat. So I have personally used pretty much everything we sell. Like that's part of how I do it is I bring it in, I pull it out of the box, I kind of play with everything. In some cases, I'll even weld with it, and then I'll write about it. And I have welded with every helmet out there. Like if there's a helmet I haven't welded with, let me know about it because I want to try it. And the lens clarity on the Optrel Crystal and the CLT it's just the best. So
Yeah.
it's got this really cool feature called autopilot. So normally, you set your shade level, 9, 11, whatever, and that's what it goes to. Optrel has this thing called autopilot, where by the millisecond, it auto adjusts your shade level. So I could
Mhm.
go, let's say, I don't know, 80 amp tack weld, right? And then I reach over for like a 5-foot long, 200 amp monster. I did not have to change my settings. It just, and so we find with TIG welders in particular, they go crazy for that technology because as they work their foot pedal and the arc is getting bigger and smaller and bigger and
Mhm.
smaller, it is just staying perfectly in sync with that and letting the exact right amount of light in. And it's just like once you get a feel for that, there's just no going back.
One of the biggest issues I've always had with TIG welding, especially because I do so much of heavier industrial work. I don't do much TIG welding, but when I do, my lenses are not even, and this is not so much now, but definitely even up until a couple years ago, lots of the optics wouldn't even pick up on really low amperage. So if
Yep.
I'm welding like in the 20 to 30
5
amperage on
amps.
something,
Yep.
yeah, like really low, they won't even turn on. Like it's not enough light. Like I have to make sure that the sensors are like right on.
Yep.
If I put a glove in front of one of the 2 or 3, it's a problem. And that one of the instructors I worked with at SAS Poly when I was teaching, he was an Optrel guy through and through.
Yep.
That's all, and he was one of the better TIG guys. So that was his jam was for
Mhm.
the clarity for seeing TIG.
100%. So we do really well with those. The multi-process welders. So we sell a lot of like 250 amp and less MIG welders and multi-process welders. The Rebel 205 is
Hmm.
bestseller of ours. But we are definitely, as we get out there, as we grow, we are doing a lot more business to business than we are business to consumer.
Yeah,
So, I mean, like our bread and butter is really small shops, farmers, hobbyists, and welding schools. So
yeah,
if you, the way I put it is if you've got 100 welders out in the back, you're probably getting really good customer service from
yeah,
your existing brick and mortar retailer. And if you've got, 20 welders or even like 2 guys in a custom fab shop, you might not be getting the best customer service or pricing. They might not have as much time for you as you'd like them to have.
yeah.
And,
They'll
and
never
that's
stop in your shop. Like, yeah,
exactly. They don't even know who their sales rep is a lot of the time. And that's it's not their business. They
yeah,
cater really well to the Hondas of the world. But
yeah,
those kind of left by the wayside shops are really our bread and butter. That's where we're getting really good traction. And they tend to be in the 300 amps and less range.
yeah. And then how did you approach your advertising strategy? Like off the top, how did you decide to push out the Shopify? And then how long did you live on that platform before you had to switch out, or
Oh, I'm
haven't
on
you?
Shopify still.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So search engine optimization, SEO, is
SEO, yeah,
kind of like the best tool you've got. It's a slow tool. It takes a long time to build trust with Google and for Google to start sending people your way. But that's
yeah,
that's that's definitely the number one strategy. You've got what I like to call the traffic store, which is paid ads. So if someone searches Sigmund welding table, I want to come up and I pay Google to make me come up.
yeah,
That's what I call the traffic store. And then you've got honestly more than half our sales word of mouth. Like
yeah,
I really try to take care of my customers. I really want people to walk away saying, that Kevin guy, like he really took the time for me to talked with me on the phone for an hour. He didn't try and push me into a sale. Genuinely wanted me to get what I wanted. And then when you do a really good job on that, they tell their friends. They tell 3 friends.
hmm,
And it's pretty routine for me that I get calls from people I've never heard of saying that their buddy and couldn't even pronounce the town had this great experience with me and he needs the same thing. Like that's we just get so much business that way.
yeah.
Like
Some
we're
weird
doing a
little
good job.
dusty town like
Yep.
Saskatoon or something.
No,
No.
think like 3 hours outside of
Yeah, yeah.
Saskatoon. So
So
we're working with a high school out in Nipawin, Saskatchewan,
yeah,
and
beautiful
he's
land up there.
yep, but he's got to drive for like an hour or two to even get to a brick and mortar welding store. So like
Yeah.
he's just perfect for us. We just ship it to him, shows up.
So have you stepped into the realm of a storefront at all, or are you living completely in the online world?
Got a warehouse and a showroom. People want to come by, they can come by. Just send us a message. But it's definitely on the list to do brick and mortar retail.
Hmm.
But for the time being, it's a warehouse showroom
Yeah.
type situation. Yeah.
And you warehouse out of London?
Yep. Yep. Nearby, just
Yeah.
outside.
So in terms of growth, a year ago I never even heard of you. Then I started hearing about you about a year ago,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden I see that you're in cahoots with the foundation and got this,
Mhm.
the Weld Safe program being a part
Yep.
of
We've
it,
got a Weld Safe and the Igniting Bright Futures. Yep.
right? So how did that connection happen? How did that start?
So we do work with a lot of trade schools.
Hmm.
So we met at FabTech.
Okay.
We met people at FabTech, shook some hands, showed them what we did. We did some live welding, made some friends. I mean, that's always the
Yeah,
network. The network
FabTech Canada
friends.
you're talking about, right? In
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
FabTech Canada. But no. So working with trade schools is something we really specialize in. A lot of students get like a starter package with a welding helmet, jackets, glove, chipping hammer, and it's really specific to the program. And we kit those up custom for each school. And so
Okay.
that's something we were already doing. And then when I got together with the CWB crew and we were just chatting, they were describing what they do, and they were going to buy helmets from here and jackets from there and chipping helmets from here. And then they were going to send them all to a third party place, and the third party place was going to send them out. And I said, oh, no, like, give me a crack at that. That's like what we do. And here we are. So I've got back at the warehouse, I've got 120 duffel bags with the CWB logo on it. Got 120 welding helmets with the CWB logo on it, because we do
Yeah.
work in the private labeling space. Same thing. The jackets are embroidered with the CWB logo. So that's not only were we able to lower the price for trade schools, but also get their logo on it and take care of the shipping.
So all this stuff is in your warehouse, is it?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
If you ever want to come by and play with some toys, like, I'd love to have you.
Well, I'm
We've
out there in
got
that region every few months, so I'll probably
Mhm.
take you up on that.
No, seriously. Seriously, give us a ring on the main line, or I'll give you my cell and an email after this. Like,
Yeah.
we've got the toys. Like, you name it, come on by. You want to try out welding helmets? You want to try out a 360-degree swivel head water cooled TIG torch with a number 21 cup on some stainless on a
Yeah,
rotary positioner? Like, go for it, man.
that sounds fun,
Like,
actually.
yeah,
All right,
lots of
so now
playground.
let's talk vision now.
Yep.
You got this ball up and running. You got
Mhm.
yourself, like, it sounds like, in a comfortable net positive,
Yep.
position. And okay, so things are rolling. Are you still holding the foot to the floor here and giving her,
Oh.
or are you looking for a little because sometimes you got to force a plateau to catch up and
Yep.
check staffing, check square footage, get all
Yep.
that, or are you still on the up push?
The only thing sleeping around here is my foot on the gas. Like, it is. I live for this. I feel so alive when we're growing, and that's just what I'm hunting. That's like the high I'm chasing right now.
Hmm.
And so, like, do I do financial forecasting, capital requirements? How can I expand the warehouse, expand manpower? I forecast all of that, and I see nothing stopping. I
Hmm.
see this big, long runway of growth, and I just have more ideas than I have time for. And we're hiring. Like, I right before we came here, I had 2 interviews. We're bringing more staff in to keep my vision rolling. And it's this great place to be, because I just don't see things stopping me. I see
Hmm.
so many things helping me right now.
Yeah, and this is a good time for new ideas, right?
Yep.
I keep calling COVID the Great Reset, because I don't like things being negative. Like, I don't like bad things happen, but good things come out of bad things always. And like, what COVID really did, I find, is that it really hurt big business, and
Mhm.
small business was able to kind of, like dandelions through the cement cracks. It'll work its way through. Give it enough time, and it'll start making a space, right? Like, and I think that that's what we're seeing is a resurgence in entrepreneurialism. You know,
Yep.
the Bitcoin push during COVID created thousands and thousands of young millionaires around the
Yeah, it
world, which
did. It
is
did.
which is great.
Mhm.
That pulls the money out of the top tier and moves it back into the bottom
Mhm.
where it gets managed better. Honestly, people can laugh at young people for not using their money uh, wisely, but you know what? They're spending it in their area that they care about, and that actually supports the local economy, which
Yep.
is a huge part of keeping the wheels going and why things collapsed in the first place. Like,
Absolutely. And like the initial lockdowns really damaged the small business more than the big businesses did. And it kind of created this like this renewed awareness of how important these small businesses in your community are and how
mhm,
much you value going to a specialist versus Walmart.
yeah.
And I am definitely seeing more people want to support a small Canadian business, and that's great to see. It really is.
So how do you manage your footprint across Canada? Like, do you want to have a warehouse in the West, or do you find out warehousing in Ontario is good enough right now to cover for coverage?
So absolutely. So London's right on the 401. Like it's a major trade route. We're getting access to great freight rates, which is
Hmm.
ultimately what you care about in e-commerce. Cheap warehouse space and cheap freight. That's what you want. But no, 100%. Give me 3 to 5 years. You're going to see me out in Calgary or Edmonton.
Okay.
Absolutely. We do about that's getting close to about half of our business. I mean, there's just so much welding and metalworking out there, and should a resource project get green lighted, you're going to see a huge welding boom out there, and I want to be positioned for that. But
Yeah,
no,
no, the even with LNG on hold, there's the new LNG, the mini
yep,
LNG. I don't know if you know much about that, but there's another
nope,
project they're just starting to stake out right now. We got lots going on in the West. I don't
yep.
think that's a threat at all.
No, no, absolutely. But you'll see me go out to Calgary or Edmonton.
Hmm.
Like Ontario's growing really, really fast. But we do find that without a physical footprint out west, some people don't necessarily like they would really prefer to do business with another Alberta company before
Yeah.
they do business with an Ontario company. And I can understand that.
Even if it's just for returns and customer service, you just feel like
Yep,
it's more attainable if it's closer, right?
absolutely. I'm also just I have been all over this country, like
Hmm.
literally everywhere except none of it. And I love it out west.
Yeah.
Like I've got my family, my friends, and my business here, so I'm kind of stuck here. But without those things keeping me here, you'd find me in Alberta. You'd probably find me in between Calgary and Red Deer.
Yeah, that's nice land there, and
Yep.
you're one of I don't hear this a lot from Ontario people. Usually Ontario people are like Ontario, 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 and then I'm like I'm from the West, and they're
Nope.
like boo.
No. No. I'm an Alberta boy at heart. I want to be about an hour from the Rockies and about 30 minutes to a city. That'd be
Well,
perfect
I
for
hope
me.
that doesn't hurt with your sales with the Ontario crew that are like, oh, this guy.
Ah, that'd be pretty funny to see. Actually, I welcome it.
All right. So now, in terms of growth,
Yep.
do you see yourself leaving the Shopify space as a shareholder? You probably have some interest to stay there, but you know, um, there is usually a certain limit where you're like, okay, I need my own, space in the internet ether.
I would love to get there. I would love to get to the point where I am so big that Shopify doesn't work for me, but I
Hmm.
just don't see that coming anytime soon. Like I was talking about the runway before. They're
Yeah.
at the end of the runway laying track.
Yeah.
Like by the time I get to what used to be the end of the runway, I bet you they can handle a bigger business.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're it's their business to lose. They've been nothing but good to me. I mean, they've got if I've got questions about getting an item published on Google, they actually pick up the phone and help me. I've got a support staff assigned to me that emails me monthly and helps me out and gives me metrics all free of charge. Like Shopify has really earned my business, and just I can't even imagine them messing it up to the point I'd want to leave.
Well, hopefully Shopify sends us a nice check for all the plugs that they've
Yeah, I know,
gotten us
right?
today.
Yeah,
I take payment in coffee. So start.
me too. Coffee and scotch.
Yeah, yeah. No, I got lots of scotch right now, so I'll probably just take coffee. All right, Kevin. So we're coming up to the end of the interview here. Let's talk about a couple of things in terms of the people that have supported you.
Yep.
You know, where was your dad in this? You left the company to come.
Yep.
It didn't sound like he stayed too long with the new
He,
ownership.
no, no, he was good. Like he got a check and he never came back.
Yeah. So
You find him in Florida now.
yeah, and how does he support this path that you chose when you
100%.
said, "Look, Dad, I'm going to get into e-commerce"? He was like, "No, that's dumb," or he was like, "Oh, go for it, kid."
My dad is my number one supporter. He's my number one mentor. He's an entrepreneur. He's from North Ontario in farmland, all the way to being a business owner in South Ontario, and
Hmm.
he's my coach. I mean, I call him all the time. He gives me sage advice. He tells me when I'm being an idiot. He tells me when I'm being smart. You know,
Hmm.
he's really definitely my number one supporter. I I could not be here without my wife, Erin. So when I foregoed engineering pace checks to go and do my own thing, she held down the fort financially. Like, this doesn't
Hmm.
happen without her. Um, he, I mean, I do have to thank the bank for financing the whole thing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Did you have to go through a special program? Like, did you do the BDC, or did you
I
just
have worked
get?
with the BDC. I have worked
Yeah,
with the BDC.
I
I
did
have
too, and they
worked
were
with
very helpful to me. Yeah.
Yep, yep. I have worked with traditional lending. I put in my own money up front, which is what all these people like to see. They want to see you have skin in the game.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's and like I said, the vendors that actually saw what I was trying to do and believed in me early, ESAB, Optrel, CK Worldwide, they really were like, yeah, no, online's the way to do it. Go for it. And then we've gotten the other vendors aligned now, but they definitely
They were watching first. Yeah.
they it was a wait and see type thing.
Hmm.
Like, just to use an example, hypertherm plasma cutters, exceptional machines. They wanted to vet a vendor a little more than the other ones.
They
We do
watch closely where their products go. Yeah.
absolutely, but we do carry them now, and there's a few brands that were kind of like that, where you kind of have to convince them
Hmm.
that, we're for real. I'm going to stock your product. I'm going to
Yeah.
provide great customer service, and I'm going to be an asset to your company. And they took a little bit of convincing, but yeah, I have to thank those first three companies that said, yeah, Kevin, go for it. Sounds good.
Well, and the support net. I literally had this conversation this morning with someone. They're like, uh, some of the questions you get are just like, "How did you succeed?" Like, very ambiguous questions. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, the right answer is always like, "Not alone."
Yep.
You
No.
don't. No, there's just no way. Anyone that tells you, and this is like something I learned early on, if anyone ever tells you they got to the top alone, they're lying. There's
No.
zero chance you did anything without the support of somebody or something, or even if it's a headless financial institution, but they were the
Yep.
first company to give you a loan. Hey,
Yep.
that's something. Because that's where I struggled as an immigrant with no co-signers and no
Mhm.
financial history in the
Mhm.
country. Getting a loan was extremely difficult. So I had to build businesses just with like returning investment, which is so painstaking slow
Yep.
in the beginning that, but it's very organic and it's solid. You don't lose anything. Like, it's a very, I had to do that for years before a bank would finally be
Yeah.
like, okay, we believe you now. Like, you're
Two
actually in
years is like
this.
the
Yeah.
minimum amount of
Yeah.
time. I mean,
Yeah.
cash flow from operations is really the most desirable way to grow your business.
Mhm.
And then
That,
and then only after that, like, leverage is kind of how you punch above your weight class,
Yeah,
is how
well,
I do it.
in the e-commerce space, it's much harder to build off of product sales. The margins are tight and they're very
It can
always,
be.
yeah. You got to find those good products that are at the right time at the right
Mhm.
place. When
Mhm.
you have the supplier, I used to love those calls. Supplier would call you up and be like, "Hey, we're calling you first. We got a couple pallets of these helmets right now, or whatever. Do you want them given to you right now
Yeah.
for 30% yet less? Send them
Yeah.
over."
No,
Like,
no, we've definitely taken advantage of that a few times. You've got some dusty inventory with a good price, I'll take it.
yeah, I'll take it. That's right. Okay, so we got the support, people that are helping you out. Now, in terms of what are your plans in terms of partnerships with other programs like us outside of CWB?
Yep.
This is really getting your name out there. And
Yep.
I find that companies that once they dip their fingers into this space, kind of like
Yep.
3M's a great example.
Yep.
3M has got their toes in community workshops and groups
Mhm.
and training sessions across the globe all
Yep.
the time. You know, do you feel like that's something you're going to pursue? Are you going to look at always trying to help out, say, perhaps schools? Or
Yeah,
like, there's
I
going
do.
to be a soft spot for that?
Yeah, so I actually I totally have a soft spot. Anytime that I know that someone struck their first arc wearing WeldReady gloves or a
Yeah.
WeldReady jacket, yeah, no, I totally, that makes me feel good inside. Because
Good.
I mean, I remember striking my first arc. I thought it was like, oh wow, this is like a hot glue gun for metal. That's so cool, right? And I want people to feel that same feeling wearing
Yeah,
WeldReady.
yeah. And then, do you guys ever see getting into the specific product game? You know, the internally designed,
Yep,
weld ready only products, or do you have that already?
we already have a private label, and it's
Okay.
growing, and I want to grow it more. Like, so I literally I talk to welders all day for a living. Like that's what I do.
Poor
And
guy.
yeah, yeah, you know what? 99 times of 100, I love it. Every once in a while though. But no, like I feel like I could design the perfect welding helmet. I've heard people rant
Oh,
about what they like and don't like about welding helmets every day for years now. And I just feel like I could get that nailed down. Same thing, TIG cups and gas lenses. Like I know what the people are asking for. Like
yeah.
I definitely
And
could
if you
grow
don't
that
do
more.
it, someone will. So you got to get on it.
Yeah.
Things
I
don't
don't want to
stay
give
uninvented for long.
I don't want to give too many of my ideas away,
No,
but
no.
give me a year or two, you're going to see them hit the market 100%.
I just went over this when I was hanging out with a supplier buddy of mine, because I'm talking 15 years ago. I was like, why don't they make Pyrex cups for short circuit MIG welding? Right? They
They
should
do.
make, well, they do now, but they didn't for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So I was talking to a buddy. I'm like, man, I even bought rod Pyrex from China to
Oh
try to
man.
design one myself, because I had a little
Yeah.
milling machine. So I like cut them, and then I was trying to mill out the inside to put a rubber seal in there and get them onto a
Yeah.
MIG torch. And machining Pyrex is not easy. It just
No,
smashes
it's
on you.
not.
Right now, I know from watching Google that you have to do it while it's hot, so it's more pliable. I didn't know that then. I just wasted $100 of Pyrex that I bought from China.
Yep.
But then now you can get, and I was like, see, the
Yeah.
need doesn't go away. I had the idea, like, if I would have gotten onto it 20 years ago, I'd be rich right now. But just because I stopped thinking about it didn't mean somebody else did. Right? Someone else stuck with it and did it.
The
Right?
way I always put it is you don't get paid for your ideas, you get paid for your execution.
Yeah.
So actually, speaking of Pyrex cups, real quick, I'll just tell you like what the next big thing is that we do have fused quartz. So Pyrex cups, 180 amps DC only, right?
Yeah.
We've got this stuff on our website, fused quartz by Edge Welding Supply. They're Q series. It's good for 350 amps AC. So like you can really throw some heat at these cups, and they're not going to break on you.
Yeah, you're going to be running lots of aluminum with that. Something
Yeah.
high amp, something AC. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
If I was any good at welding aluminum, I'd be more excited. But I'm pretty bad at it.
You don't want to see my welds, man. The way I
Well-
always put it, like I've got the nicest gear and the worst welds.
Well, I'm really good at teaching. For some reason, I've been able to help people get amazing aluminum welds, but I don't give the best demos. Stainless, stick, MIG, TIG, that's my bread and butter. And then just normal mild steel. But me and aluminum, we don't have a very good relationship.
For me, I mean, like, where's the puddle? Where's the puddle? I burnt a hole in it.
Yeah,
Like
drip.
that's me and aluminum. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Last question.
Yep.
With your business experience and where you are now, coming up through the industry, working for your dad, seeing the back end, then getting in front of it now, and you're running the show. You got your vision and your dream that you're very hyped and pumped about, which is awesome to see. If you could go back, you can go back in time, get in the time machine. You're coming out of high school. You're working for your dad here and there. You haven't quite committed. You're
Yep.
just about to enroll into this mechanical engineering program that you in retrospect may or may not feel great about.
Yeah.
But what would you tell yourself now, knowing now where you are?
Oh man, fail early. Like just take a risk earlier, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you've got an idea, and if you're starting to feel like you're not enjoying what you're doing and there is something else that you would be enjoy doing, just be a little more aggressive and go for it. Just break yourself out of the thing that you're not enjoying and go after the thing you think you might enjoy. Like I honestly I part of me regrets going to university. I think I would have been happier learning a trade. Like if I had learned, I'll use welding as the example. It could be any trade though. If I'd gone to welding college when I was an 18 or 19-year-old kid and then business school, like I'd be doing exactly this earlier and smarter.
Yeah. I said that at a conference. I'm like, we got to start pitching trade school first.
Yep.
Like it's almost like everyone has to go to trade school, even if you want to go to university. You have to go to trade school because it's only like you can get 3 month programs. Go do a
Yeah.
3 month program in a trade school, and if you hate it, then go off to university. Now you know. Now you know. But if you do like it, now you have a job that you can work on weekends and nights, and you can put yourself through university and not have
Oh,
a
yeah.
student loan. Like, I mean,
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get out of university and they're in debt and unemployable, and then a
That's
lot
right.
of people get out of college and they're ready to rock. And
Well, like what would
think-
I have done with a philosophy degree? Like where I'd be working at the the greeter at Walmart. Not no diss to the greeters at Walmart. You do a fantastic job. Love you guys. But if I didn't have my trade background, I would have really had a lot more struggles in life. That's for sure.
100%. And I mean, like carpenters, electricians, plumbers, welders, like that's where the demand is right now.
Mhm.
It just is like you can't get skilled labor right now. I
Yeah.
talk to all these shops. Like if I'm talking to someone that's in aerospace or nuclear and they need a very qualified welder, they can't get help fast enough right now.
No, and the welders that they need are still years away
Yep.
from being available, right? So,
Mhm, mhm.
all right, buddy. Well, I've had a fantastic time having you on the show here.
Yeah.
And any last words, sage advice, shout outs to anybody out there?
Come to WeldReady.ca. You need help with anything, reach out to me. You'll probably personally get me and I'll help you out. Welding schools, small shops, farmers, hobbyists. That's really our bread and butter. Give us a call.
All right. Thank you very much. And for all the people following along, thanks so much for supporting. We're now into the deep well where I think this will be like episode like 108 now. Like, I mean, I've lost count after 100. I was like so happy about 100 that I've done, I think 6 interviews since then. I just kind of like blurred, but this is fantastic. And I really like that the CWB is working with you guys. And this wasn't all just a shameless plug for WeldReady. I actually wanted to hear the story because it is an interesting market right now that we're going into, and I love hearing about people like yourselves and the journey that you jumped in.
No, it's awesome, and thanks. This was my first podcast, and I'm glad it was with you, man. I really am.
Thank you. I'm glad I got to pop your cherry. So I might have to delete that one. I might have to get edited. But thanks very much, and we'll talk soon, man. We'll catch up.
Yeah, give me an email.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers, bye.
All right, and everybody else, stay tuned.
We hope you enjoyed the show.